That's Hunter.
Yeah. Mr. Angry Man is back. I'm back. That's right. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. Nah. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. Yeah. Listen. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. Y'all ain't know that I can rock like that. United we fall, divided we rise. That's all they ever see when they look in our eyes. I ain't the least bit surprised, and I don't even ask why I study. Looking for love and all we get is despise. They proper lying, what? Meaning they falsely prophesying, talking about we really living, but we steadily dying. Tired of mothers crying, damn, and fathers silently raging. There's gotta be a way to escape this situation now. Yup. Come on. Verse 2. We search for brighter days to escape the maladies, giving homage to the folks that passed away. I speak life with the words I say, and that's the weapon I use to keep the evil at bay. I don't play when it comes to mine. My rhymes speak of a revolution this time. It's by design, and I'ma drop these deposits. So if you scared, take your ass to the closet. Why? Let me tell you this. Let's go. I got one more verse for you. Get them off of that verse. Listen to me now. Verse 3. I drop gems, representing lugs and Timbs with backpacks. I got props like Black Moon, they want effect like Dimes. I'm pouring mic like Nas. I'm the southern playalistic cat that beat them odds. I'm coming out hard. We coming out hard. Yes, sir. Y'all didn't know that I can rock like that. One time for your mind. Representing for the deuce. That's right. Put it down for the deuce tray. Let's go. Mr. Angry Man. Haha. Peace. What's going on, everybody? What's happening? Welcome to Trailblazers Radio. My name is Frederick Beatty. I am your host for this evening, and welcome to the check-in, the show that we talk about all things mental health related. But before we jump into the topic of tonight, man, I want to just throw some things out here really quickly, man. So first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for their support, and thank you everybody for being here and also hanging out with me tonight. You guys could have been anywhere else, but you guys decided to be here with me, and so I most definitely appreciate that so very much. So thank you for that. And we'll also want to thank everybody. Thank folks who are tuning in on the YouTube channel, folks who are listening in on Facebook, and folks who are also watching live stream and on Twitch. So most definitely appreciate you guys for doing that. Hey, I most definitely appreciate it. You guys rock. You guys are the shiznit. I appreciate you. Thank you very much for just being here and rocking out with me. I am so happy to be here tonight. I also want to, recognize some special guests that there's some special guests that are most likely watching tonight. The folks from Shaking Up the Algorithm are watching us tonight, man. So I am most definitely thank them for being here tonight, for tuning in and watching, taking this in and watching tonight. I most definitely appreciate you guys. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you so very much for being here. I hope I don't bore you. I hope I don't bore you guys too much with what I'm about to talk about, and things of that nature. Simone Austin, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you so very much. Look, also want to tell you guys, hey, look, man, we are on YouTube, man. We're on the road to 100 subscribers. Please do me a favor and go to the YouTube channel and check out a video too. Like some videos and things of that nature. If you like them, if you like the content, do me a favor, subscribe. But only subscribe if you feel the content is relevant to you. And then also make sure you hit that bell notification to be notified when new episodes pop up. So, last but most definitely not least, I will just most definitely want to thank my team, Coco Fenton, Quint Jones, Latanya Harris Good, also known as LHG, man. These are some wonderful ladies, and then there's a wonderful team, and I most definitely appreciate them for being who they are to me, and also just being here, just also being a part of this platform. So I most definitely appreciate that. Um, with that being said, I want to throw this disclaimer out here for you guys, really, really quickly, and I want to put this out here and make it abundantly clear. Um, I am not a mental health expert. I am not a mental health guru. I am not a relationship guru or anything of that nature. I am just a guy who who has experienced life, and I don't mind Todd, I don't mind being transparent about my life. Don't mind being transparent about my life. I don't mind using my life experiences to help somebody. So I just want to throw that disclaimer out there right now. That disclaimer. And then the other disclaimer I'm gonna throw out here. So for me, I do use colorful language. So parental, I'm gonna say this out for parental discretion is strongly advised because I do use colorful language. It's not, and I don't use it. And I don't use it just to use it. I use it to sometimes get a point across, but also to amplify a point. But enough of that for right now. The reason that that we're here live tonight, the reason that we're all gathered here tonight is to talk about. Well, I want to talk to you guys about something that I feel is very important for us, for me as a black man. I think that we'll think that's important for all of us as black men, but men, period, especially black men though. But also, I think this is important for women to hear as well. For women to hear as well. What am I talking about? Well, Fred, what you talking about? Talk about this word. Talk about a word that starts with a B and ends with an E. Talking about balance. Something that I feel is vitally important for us. That needs to be vitally important, but also needs to be recognized for us. If we're gonna ever get if we're ever going to get anywhere, if we're ever gonna bridge any gaps, if we're ever gonna get to a point to where we're able to understand each other and things of that nature, we have to talk about balance. And I'm going to talk about it from an individual perspective, but I'm going to use me as the example. And first things I want to talk about is this. Let me ask you a question. When you think about balance in your life, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Do you think about work life balance? Do you think about um is it a work life balance? Do you think about balancing yourself? Do you think about balancing yourself in your relationship? What do you think about when we think about balance? What is it that you think about? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about balance? Well, I'll tell you the first thing that comes to my mind when I think when we talk about balance. I use balance as something to akin to like when you get your car serviced, when you get your tires balanced and rotated. If your tires are not properly balanced or not properly balanced, then they'll wear unevenly, right? If you're and I think of balance in that aspect. If you're not properly balanced, then you will wear unevenly, emotionally as well as physically as well as spiritually. So that's the aspect I'm going to come from, but I'm also going to use other aspects as well. Um, and I think one aspect that I'm going to use is going to be one aspect that I think a lot of us are familiar with, but you won't be surprised when I use it. But when I think of balance, I think of it in that aspect. If we're one of the things I want to put out here is this: if we're not properly balanced, then we wear ourselves down emotionally. We wear ourselves down physically. We wear ourselves down spiritually. We also we put ourselves in a position to where we're not to where we put ourselves in a position to where we're not our best. we can't be our best to the people that we care about. We can't be our best to the people that we love. We can't be our best to the people that depend on us, that need us, that love us. We can't be our best if we're not properly balanced. And people think that it's like it's a crazy thing, but it's not a crazy thing because being balanced requires, I won't say requires a few things, but there's some things that I learned in my journey of to be balanced. And what I and before I even jump into like before I jump into the five things that I learned while attaining and maintaining balance. I just want to kind of brief you with a little something, with a little something, something, a little story. Not too long ago, and those people who have tuned into these check-ins, pretty much know they pretty much know my story. They pretty much know um where you know what the things that I've experienced. The things all those things have I those all those things that I experienced threw me way out of whack. They threw me way out of any type of proportion, any type of balance in my life. Um being being someone who was was an abuser was an abuser in a domestic abuse situation, but also being abused, but also being someone who was trying to recover from that. Also, not to mention, not to mention four suicide attempts. Also, not to mention um, losing a child to police violence. Also, losing other people that I loved that I cared about, but also also being a witness, not a witness, but also just noticing and experiencing the things that the person that I love and that I care about, my significant other, go through as she navigates. She's navigated the waters of losing people that are close to her, and all these things built up a whole lot of things inside, for the good, for the bad, for the worse. But me being out of balance started a long time ago. And again, I hope I'm not boring anybody. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Hope I'm not boring anybody with this. But I do want to preface that. I do want to preface that. And so in my journey of love finding balance, there are a lot of things I had to understand. There's a lot of things that I went through that I had to understand, a lot of things that I had to put in my mind. One thing that I want you guys to understand is this. Balance is a balance is a thing that we all wish to, and that we all want, or should I say need to attain, but it's very hard for us to maintain. And I'll tell you the reasons why I get into that later as we go on. But my journey with balance started with my balance with journey started with reading a book called the Tao Te Ching. That's where my journey with balance started from. And also my journey with balance also started from reading The Art of War by Sun Tzu. My journey with balance also started by just reading my Bible from from start to finish. Not all, but also reading the Bible in addition to having a concordance and and so many other so many other materials that I use, and taking detailed notes and things of that nature. So that's where my journey with balance began. I learned that we are we are yin and yang, positive and negative energy, good and bad, good and bad, good and bad energy. However you want to put that, or however you want to define that. But we are of yin and yang, which represents a duality. And I'll get into that a little bit later too. But as I'm going through this, and as I'm reading, and as I'm researching, and as I'm doing all these things, I came across some realizations. And I think, and again, I'm not a relationship expert. I'm not a guru. I am not a mental health expert. I am not a mental health guru or anything of that nature. Like I said at the top of the show, I am more or less a individual who's experienced life and who has experiences. That's it. So that's that's who I am. That's pretty much who I am. That's who I who I've been. What's going on? What's going on, Devon? Devon, say, how are you doing tonight? Thank you for tuning in, brother. I most definitely appreciate you so very much for coming in and just tuning in with us, man. I appreciate you, brother. Um, so um, like I was saying, I came across some revelations to to balance. One of those revelations is this: balance is an inside job first. Let me. I want to repeat. I want to repeat that so you guys understand what that is. Balance is an inside job first. Why do I say it's an inside job? Well, it's quite simple, but at the same time, very plain. So why do I say balance is an inside job? Balance is an inside job for us because for anything to change or to happen externally, it has to start internally. Let me repeat that for you. For any type of change to happen externally, it has to start internally. Keep in mind, this is never the other way around. It doesn't start from the outside and then go to the inside. It starts from the inside and goes to the out and then it projects outward. And there's a reason and a lot and a logic behind that, right? And there's a reason and a logic with a logic, but there's a logic behind that. One of the things that I thought about and I came to realize is that people can change their appearances on the outside. People could have all the cosmetic surgery and the augmentations and the BBLs and the waist trainers and all that type of shit, which is good, which is good, bad, or indifferent, however you want to look at it. Um, that is your opinion, that is your thought process. And you could have all those things. You could get all those things, all those augmentations, and then on top of that, you can wear, you know, you can get a haircut, you can do all this working out, you can wear makeup for women, and you can do where you can work out and do all these things, and all these things are external things. All these things are for the external appearance. It's something that makes someone much more attractive or much more pleasing to the eye, which is cool. But my question would be this: why would you do all that external work just to still be a shitty person on the inside? Why would you do all that external work to still be the same person internally? You did all those things and you're still the same disagreeable, disgruntled, disrespectful, dishonorable, disloyal, despicable, and deplorable human being, and maladjusted person that you were before all these external things. We have to look inward. We have to look inward, y'all. We have to look inward. And what I mean by looking inward, we have to look at it. We have to look at ourselves at a. We have to look at ourselves at a. And we have to look at ourselves at the most basic of levels. Who are we as a person? What is our attitude? What is our attitude toward life and toward people? How do we how do we view ourselves? How do we view ourselves? What do we think of ourselves? What thoughts do we have of ourselves? How do we carry ourselves in certain situations? It is a inward thing. You have to look inward. There's layers and layers and layers of there's layers and layers and layers to us as people, as individuals. Let's just call that what it is, Kurt, right now. We all have layers to us, but it starts with going through those layers and getting down to that little boy and that little girl that we are, and addressing that little boy and that little girl. Most of the times, and again, someone you anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but this has been my personal experience. Most of the times when I was in balance, when I was out of balance, was most of the time I won't even say realize I was out of balance. Most of the time I saw myself, or knew, or had an inkling that I was out of balance, is what I went through a traumatic event, or if I went through something that was very, very, that was hurtful, something that pushed me to an edge, right? So I realized I was out of balance when I went through a traumatic event, and I put up those barriers to protect myself from feeling the emotions of that traumatic event. And that's one thing that we do if we're going through a traumatic event. Usually we throw up those barriers because we don't want to feel that. We don't want to experience that, right? So we have to start from the inside. It starts from the inside out, not from the outside in. And we have to address that little boy and that little girl. We have to address that little boy and that little girl, and begin to heal that little boy and that little girl. It doesn't start with just wrapping your arms around that person and in protection. It just you embrace that little boy and that little girl in acknowledgement, because you can't protect someone from what they've already you can't protect someone from what they've already been through, just like you can't protect yourself from what you've already been through, what you've already endured as a child, as an adolescent, as an adult. You can't protect yourself from the things that you've already experienced. They've already been experienced. And you have to acknowledge that little boy, that little girl, and say, I understand. And it starts with us being internally aware that something is out of whack. You can't, like I said before, you can't put on this front, or put on this facade. You can't put on makeup. You can't get these body augmentations and all this stuff and still be the same person inside. Of course, you changed inside. You can't be like, what I'm saying, You can't be this changed person on the outside, and you ain't changed on the inside because that's like because the way I see that, that's like mercury and water. That doesn't blend. As everybody knows, you put mercury in water, the mercury goes to the top, the water stays on the bottom because the mercury is the lighter liquid. It no matter how many times you shake, no matter how many times you shake it up, no matter how many times you you agitate it or whatnot, the mercury always still rises to the top. And it's like mercury and water, it don't blend. You can't be this changed person on the outside and have it changed on the inside. And I'm gonna tell y'all, real change on the inside comes when you acknowledge every experience that you've been through, whether it's your past, whether it's your present. And there's time, just like LHG said in her comment, sometimes you just might have to go back to that point of trauma to where so that way you can truly find healing, real healing that that can take place when you take when you combine therapy and God. To me, that's the wombo combo right there. It is. I'm not even gonna front about that. That's the wombo combo. But you to kind of close that part of it, you can't be this on the outside and not be this on can't be you can't change on the outside and then not change on the inside. It don't work that way. Change, like I said, balance is an inside job first. It is a it is a requirement that it's a requirement that it's an inside job first. It has to start internally because if it doesn't start internally, it doesn't start internally, it won't manifest itself externally. It won't manifest itself externally because when we change on the inside, the change that happens to us on the inside manifests on the outside. And people can see that. People can align themselves with that. They can see that, they can recognize that, they're able to feel that, right? So that's the one thing that I understood. One of the things that I understood. Again, excuse me, I apologize. Dealing with my allergies right now. Yes, indeed, LSG. We do have to stop allowing people's opinions to stop or to halt. Actually, I'm gonna say halt our healing process because many of us have been off the equilibrium for decades and it's manifesting in our decisions and our relationships. Yes, it is. It really, really is. And that kind of goes to it kind of goes to my second point, realization. And a lot of people are probably going to disagree with this, but please, 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 please hear me out. Please hear me out. I have a good reason. I have a good reason for saying what I'm about to say. Balance requires us to accept the light and dark aspects of ourselves. Okay, if y'all didn't hear me, I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna throw it up. I'm gonna throw it in the chat. Balance requires us to accept the light and dark aspects of ourselves. I'm gonna, I'm gonna let that breathe. I'm gonna let that breathe for a minute because there's a reason as to why I say this. There's a reason as to why I mentioned this. Like I said, a lot of people are going to disagree. Are probably going to disagree with me about this. And if you do, that's cool. We can most definitely respectfully disagree in the chat. That's cool. But before we disagree, but before you disagree, I want you to hear me out and kind of understand the reason as to why I'm saying this, as to why I put it in this vernacular. So I'll put it in a way that most of us will more likely understand. And I'm going to use a familiar a universe that is wholly familiar to all of us, whether we're adults, whether we're kids, or whether we're adolescents. Because I think every once in because I think we've all watched we've all watched what are these films, or we're currently watching what are the spin-off series in the what are the spin-off series in this universe. The universe that I'm talking about is the Star Wars universe. So that's probably going to get a little weird. That's probably going to get a little weird. So people are going to be like, "Well, why? What are we? So what, Fred? What are you talking about?" So here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm good. Here's where it gets. Here's where I try to bring this home for everybody. So in the Star Wars universe, you have you have this thing called the Force, right? And you have light side, which are the Jedi, dark side, which is the Sith, right? And it has been it has been it has been said that the light side is the good side, the dark side is the bad side, right? So we all know that there's this thing that that the light side is always on the side of goodness and purity and all these things. And the dark side deals with all the other emotions that we deal with, which is anger, hatred, greed, slothfulness, you know, all those things, right? But what if I told you that those particular aspects of us were already ingrained in us? What if I told you that? Would you believe me? Or would you just look at me like saying that he's all I'm on some metaphysical type shit? Um, and to be honest with you, I'm not on anything metaphysical. However, I'm putting this into a practical matter, practical type sense. Let's put it let's explore a little further. So let's how about this? If somebody told you there can be no light without dark, would you believe that? Or if somebody told you there can be no light, there can be no. So I said there can be no light without dark. What if I said there can be no dark without light? Would you believe? Would you believe those two? Would you believe those two phrases? If you do, then you already acknowledge the simple fact that there's light and dark aspects to us. The other part of this that I want to make relevant is also the same. It's the same instance in Christianity. It's the same way that Christianity. It's not the same way that Christianity looks at it, but it's somewhat the same. It's the same. Yes, Shawana. Yes, Shawana. Because one basically complements the other, and one always precedes the other, right? So to make this more relevant, there are yes, Devase, it is the yin to the yang. And people don't realize a lot of us don't realize that we have those two types of energies. That's what I meant by duality. So what if I told you that we have light and dark aspects to ourselves? The light, what I mean by the light aspects to us the are the feelings and the aspects of honor, loyalty, respect, fealty, um, and those emotions, altruism, patriotism, all those things. And then what if I told you that some of the darker aspects to us are anger, hatred, envy, uh, greed, slothfulness, um, those emotions that that come out when we feel this when we feel away. Hurt. Now hurt can be, I put hurt in the middle because hurt because pain can either be used for good or used for bad. So I put pain in the middle. So pain is one of the pain and hurt are those things that I put in the middle of this circle because they could be used for either way. It just depends on the individual. So think about it look at it from this point. All the light aspects, which are the things that I mentioned, the altruism, the patriotism, the respect, the fealty, the honor, the loyalty. Those are things that not necessarily LHG. I'm not equating but I am equating those to positive and negative emotions, but also at the same time, those emotions can be flip flopped. Those emotions can be flip flopped. Anger, anger used in the career, anger used in a positive fashion can can work. Anger in a positive fashion, channeled in a positive fashion, can work wonders for a person. Um, Now jealousy and envy and hatred and strife, those are just negative emotions. Period. There's no there. I don't think anybody can prove me wrong. I don't think there's any way that we can quantify hatred, envy, strife, jealousy as and fear as positive emotions. Um, fear used in a positive fashion can also be good for you. So fear and anger, those are other two emotions. Those are other two emotions that I'm going to put towards the middle because they can be used in either fashion. But the other emotions, honor, you know, honor, loyalty, those are the positive emotions, and then all the other emotions I mentioned are the negative ones. However, those represent night and day for us. Those represent night and day for us. Sometimes, here's where it becomes relevant for me. And it may not be relevant for you, but it's relevant for me. Sometimes when I say we have to accept both light and dark aspects of ourselves, that means we have that. What I mean by that is we have to acknowledge. It simply means that we have to acknowledge those negative emotions when we experience them. It doesn't mean it means that we acknowledge those emotions when we experience them. If I experience anger, if I experience hatred or envy towards someone, I can't just sit up here and say, I can't sit up here and ignore that. I have to acknowledge that. But I also have to find a way to chat. I also have to find a way to channel that into positive energy, into a positive thing. Now, like I said, hatred and all the other emotions I mentioned, I personally can't quantify those as to how they could be positive emotions or energy or like positive emotions. But we have to find a way to channel that into a place to where it works for us. And what I mean by acknowledging the light and dark aspects of ourselves is that we operate on this thing of duality. We we're so, and I won't say it. I won't necessarily say duality, but first of all we're first of all we're being we're creature we're first of all we're physical and fleshly creatures. So that means we operate a body. We have a spirit. We also have a soul. That's not necessarily duality, but that's not duality. But for me, I eliminate I put spirit as to me spirit and soul are synonymous. At least to me, it is. I don't know about anybody else, but spirit and soul are synonymous with me. So those count as one entity for me, and that's where for me that's where duality is for me. But we do operate on a duality. We operate on a part that there's There's a light side to us. There's a dark side to us, and we and at any given time, and at any given time or any given moment, we operate in either one or both aspects of it. When we love someone, when we love on someone, that is a light part. That is a light aspect of us. If we're jealous or we're envious of someone, that is the dark aspect of us. And I want to make sure that the people that people that everybody that's listening to me understands what I mean when I say that we operate on one or both sides of it. We can operate on both sides of it if we have conflict, if we have conflicting emotions. That's the best example that I could use is that, you know, I may have respect for someone, but I'm jealous of them. That's operating on both sides of the spectrum. That's To me, that's the best example that I can think of. If anybody else that's in the chat can think of another example, I'm all for it. But we can operate on both one or both sides of that equation. You know, sometimes some of us because of the things that we go through, we do operate on both sides of that equation. We operate on just one side of that equation because of the things, because of our past, because of our traumas, because of our experiences, whether those experiences are good, bad, or indifferent. We operate either on the light side of it, or we operate on the dark side of it, and we have to acknowledge both. We have to acknowledge both of them because they both exist. Both of those energies exist within us. Both of those aspects exist within us. And if we don't acknowledge both sides of it, it becomes impossible for us to operate in a operate in a sense to where it's what's the word I'm looking for? It becomes impossible for us to operate in a real sense, in a real cognitive or cognizant sense. Acknowledging certain aspects about us is all about us growing, all about us learning ourselves and growing within ourselves. Of course, I have good ways, and sometimes I have horrible ways. That is the duality of me. I have good ways, I have horrible ways. I have good days, I have bad days. And sometimes I just have indifferent days. Um, I hope I explained that in a way. I hope I explained that in a way to where it was logical, because I know I was bouncing all over the place. And if you guys want to ask me some questions, most definitely do. Most definitely do that in the chat. And I will most definitely answer those questions as best as I possibly can. This is not only just me talking. It's also you guys, not only you guys watching, but also asking questions. So this is interactive. So don't be afraid. I mean, I trust me, I don't bite. I don't bite at all. I don't bite. We, like I said, light and dark coexist. They coexist on the same plane. Like I said, the best example that I can think of is night and day. There can't be any darkness without any light, and vice versa. There's no bad without good, and there's no good without bad, and there's no bad without good. There's no yin if you don't have yang. We do operate in a duality. Light part of us, dark part of us, and we have to acknowledge those parts to us. and not necessarily not necessarily mesh them into one thing, because to try to combine those aspects of us would be really disastrous. It's better to just acknowledge each part of us. So that way we're able to move and operate in a better way. Like I said, I hope I explained that is better. I hope I explained that in a way to where everybody understood it. Like I said, I know I was all over the place, so I apologize for that. I do have notes, y'all, so I am going off my notes, but I'm also kind of, as I'm looking at, as I read, as I'm looking at, as I'm talking to you guys, and I'm looking at my notes, I'm also forming thoughts in my mind about how I want to approach it, how I want to attack it, how I want to attack this. One of the other things that I realized when I was in bed, when I was going through realizing, understanding about balance. Balance is not always about existing in the gray. Again, sounds weird, but stay with me. I got you. Stay with me. I got you. Again, pardon me. It's it sounds weird. It sounds weird. It sounds weird. But stay with me. I got you. Stay with me. I got you. What I mean by living in the gray, that means just being in the middle. We all talk about balance is like being this thing right here in the middle, straight, just this here. Being in the middle is cool, but but in most cases that gets boring, because because when I say we're living in the gray, that means we're living in the middle. And it's not about balance, being balanced in your life and in all aspects of it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to live in the middle, or live in a, I won't say a boring spot, but a unfulfilling spot. Living in the gray is just, to me, it's just not very fulfilling, because it just means that you're just flat, and you're uninterested. You're not motivated. You're not moved. You're not anything. Another example, which is again another Star Wars example, is the Gray Jedi. They how they exist in the Force. There's no light. There's no dark. There's only the Force. That's and I put it. And I'll be very honest with you guys and very transparent with you guys. That was where I was for a very long time. Not in that way, but there wasn't any dark, there wasn't any acknowledgement of either aspect of me. It was just me. It was just me existing in that existing in the moment. Just living in the moment, being flat and emotionless. And balance doesn't work that way, y'all. Being in balance doesn't work that way. Let me just put this thing out here really quick. Let me just put this thing out here. And everybody will agree with me when I say this. First of all, we are human beings, and we display a myriad of emotions. Being in balance means that being in balance. When I say being in balance doesn't mean we live in the gray. It means that we don't live a flat and emotionless life. We you can go through all the trial, you can go through all the things that you've been through in your life, you can experience everything that you've been through in life. But if you walk around flat and emotionless, because of all the things that you've experienced, that is not an existence. Well, it is an existence, but it is an existence based on sitting in the middle. I don't want to acknowledge. I don't want to acknowledge what I've been through. I don't want to acknowledge. I don't want to acknowledge that there's parts of me that I can. There's parts of me that's good, but I can't also. But I don't want to acknowledge there's parts of me that I parts of me that I despise or I don't like. And living it, so I and to not acknowledge those things, to not realize those things, to not see those things, it really just kind of puts a really flat and emotionless existence within it. And that's what I mean by it doesn't mean that we live that being in balance doesn't mean that we live in a gray area. And look, y'all, I look, I get it. I get it. I get it more than most people. I get it more than most people. You've been through trauma after trauma, experience after experience, um, heartbreak after heartbreak, letdown after letdown, and all these things compounded, and this this puts you in this neutral zone to where you don't want to feel shit. You don't want to feel love. You don't want to feel anger. You don't want to feel joy. You don't want to feel pain. You don't want to feel any of that. You just want to not feel it. You just want to kind of just exist and just go through your day like nothing has ever happened, or like nothing has ever happened, or nothing will happen. I'm sorry to inform you, and I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but that ain't how life goes. That's not how life operates. That's not the way things are. We live this life and we go through the myriad of emotions, because we go through the myriad of emotions and the things we go through because of the experiences the things that we experience, because of the good, the bad, and the ugly, because of the joy and the pain, because of the sunshine and the rain. We're human beings, and we experience all these things. Sometimes we experience all those things at one time. So I had to put it in. I really had to realize that. And because at one point I was living in that middle part of it, not wanting to feel it, not wanting to feel nothing, not wanting to be involved in nothing, not wanting to immerse myself in any emotion, because I was afraid of, or even, and I'll take it even further, not even wanting to make wholesale changes internally, because I didn't want to participate in that, didn't want to even didn't want to even jump in that process. I lived in the gray, lived in that flat, emotionless part of life, to where it doesn't matter what you do, nothing's gonna be fulfilling, nothing's gonna bring you satisfaction. You're just gonna be existing. You're gonna be existing and not living. Being in the gray means that you're solely existing and not living. I'm gonna repeat that. Being in the gray means that you're solely existing and you're not living. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a place for the gray. There is a place and a time for the gray, but not where you're trying to live life. Not where you're trying to live this thing we call life. Not where you're trying to experience this thing called life. And I had to understand that. The fourth thing that I had to understand while I was seeking it and trying to attain balance is maintaining attaining balance is one thing, but maintaining balance is a continuous conflict or process. Fred, why do you say it's a conflict? Well, it is a conflict. Conflict is a natural part of our existence, and maintaining balance is a conflict too. Why do I say that? Because I say that because we find we're in constant conflict with equaling the scales of our lives on a daily basis. There's not one day or one instance that we go through our lives that things that people require our time and our energy. They require our time, our energy, and sometimes and sometimes they require our physical presence. Added to the equation, the choices that we've made from choices that we made in our lives. There's conflict. There's push pull. There's push and pull. So we're in conflict because it's a conflict because we're we're trying to make sure that those scales are there or even, or at least or as close to even as we can get it. And sometimes you have to put something, you have to take a little bit off one scale and put it on another scale, or something, or better yet, sometimes you have to take something off the scale altogether. And and to me, that is where the conflict comes in, because it's difficult, because you have people and you have people vying for your time. You have things, you have your work, you have a life outside, you have a life outside of that. You're trying to put those two, those two are automatically on the scale. And then you have other things that require your time or your energy or your presence. Some of you that are listening may have a business, and now you have to balance your actual job with your business, or even more yet, now you have to balance your job and your spouse. And then then you have kid, then you have if you have kids, if you have young children, or if you have older children, then you have to put those things on the scale as well. And then you also have to balance. There's also free time, your personal time that you have to balance, that you have to put on that scale too. Sometimes that scale tips over, sometimes that scale does not. Sometimes that scale just stays where it is. It's it's understanding what I think for me, and this is just me saying this. The conflict is always understanding is trying to get or understand what's important, what takes precedent, what what has the importance at this particular moment in time. And I think that's how most of us do our damage to balance those scales that way. We think about we look at we try to look at our day, and we try to look at what's the most important thing that we have to do. Like I said, some of us have a job in addition to running a business. Some of us don't have a job up there, and we're solely entrepreneurs. Some of us are stay at home parents. Some of us are sole breadwinners. Some of us balance work. Some of us are married, and some of us are single, and some of us have significant others, boyfriend or girlfriend. And all these things are on the scale. And you have to look at it as like, okay, if I do this, then in the way that it's looked at, I look at it is like, if I do this, if I add something to this scale, to the scale, something else suffers. If I take away something from the scale, something else suffers, or someone else suffers. If I if I devote time to my business, after work, now maybe I'm impinging on quality time with my wife. If I stay after work and do a little overtime, if I'm a parent, maybe I'm impinging on quality time with my kids. If I work constantly on my business, I don't maybe I'm impinging on time that I have to socialize. These things are conflicts. They will always be conflicts as long as they're on one side. There's as long as they're either one or they're on one side of the scale. Because remember, like I mentioned to you, you have to take you in order to take away something, you have to in order to gain something, you have to give something, you have to give up something. This is what I call this is what is called the law of equivalent exchange. And I'm gonna tell y'all right now, it I got I understood I researched this, and the funny part about it is I understood this from an anime series called Full Metal Alchemist. And I learned that and I understood what the law of equivalent exchange was, and I researched it to see if that was something that was actually something that was a real not necessarily a real law, but something that could be actually applied to our lives. And then you can apply the law of equivalent exchange to our lives. Balance in a way is equivalent exchange, or at least this part of it. That's what I mean by conflict, or it's a continuous conflict. It's it plays into the law of equivalent exchange. In order to gain something or to get something, you have to give up something. If you look at it, if you think about that law of equivalent exchange, think about it on a with a scale. But then you also put all the things in your life currently that you do, whether you're a bit a whether you're you're a 9 to 5 worker, or you're an entrepreneur, or if you are a student, or whatever. All you probably put all those things that you do, and you put them on both sides of each scale, both sides of the scale. You'll find you'll when you put it on both sides of the scale, you'll find that scale is not necessarily balanced. It kind of it may look like this, it may look like that, it may look like this, or it may look like that. It may look whatever, however it looks. You'll find when you put all those things on the scale, you'll find that your scale is very much unbalanced. When you start taking away things, and you start adding things to one end, you start taking away things from one scale to the other, or you add things from one scale to the other, you'll find that at some point this begins to somewhat even out. Not necessarily even, but to the point to where it looks like it doesn't teeter toward the left or to the right side of the scale. It just kind of just sits right there. And that's the thing, you know what I mean when I say balance is a conflict, because we're always in conflict with our the things and people that require our time, is what our time and energy, as well as our physical presence. And and if you think about it from the aspect from the law of equivalent exchange, in order to gain something, you also must first give up something. And if you take away something, or you add something to one part of the scale, the other part of the from to one scale, or you remove it, the other part of that scale suffers. Same thing when you look at it from the aspect of time and energy in people. You devote more time to your business, your significant other suffers. Yeah, that's true. That's true, LSG. It is a juggling act. And like you said, we have to decide if what we're juggling belongs to us or somebody else. And that's the difficult part. The things that belong to us, we can the things that belong to us, we can readily identify. Sometimes the things that don't belong to us and belong to somebody else are not easily or not readily identifiable. Because sometimes, and I'm a bit and I am and I will say that I've done this a lot. Sometimes I take on the responsibility or the jobs of others. which adds more things to my scale. Or I take on things, I know good damn well I should be taking on, which adds more weight to my scale. And it is a juggling act. A very delicate, but a very delicate juggling act, should I say? Because you have to, but again, like I said, you have to keep in mind what you do on one side affects the other side. It's a very delicate juggling. So what you have to do, what you do on one side affects the other side. And we have to be cognizant of that. We have to be cognizant of the fact of what belongs to us and what belongs to somebody else. Because if we can identify what belongs to us, that's easy. We can easily just separate that. We can easily separate that from everything else. But if the things that belong to other people are not so readily identifiable, and yet we take it on because maybe, but just because we think that, okay, it doesn't belong to me, but let me see if I can help this person get over the hump, and then we take it on, and then that person abandons it. Now we've taken on something that didn't belong to us in the first damn place, and now we're stuck with a responsibility for a responsibility that we didn't want to take, that we didn't want to have, but yet we took it on anyway. Good question, sis. Good question. Do we easily take responsibility for our own shit all the time? No, we don't. And that's an easy answer. That's an easy answer because when we don't take responsibility for the shit that we do, that is, like you said, sis, that is denial. That is denial flat out. And a lot of us, and I'm going to put myself in this too, myself included. Some of us do live in denial. I had lived in denial for a while. I had lived in denial for a while. When you don't take responsibility for the thing for the shit that you do, first of all, that's a lack of accountability, number one. And second of all, that's denial. You know good damn well you wrong, but you think your wrong is right. That's denial. Well, that's denial and delusion. Yes, they do. Parents do play the blame game when raising kids because simple fact of the matter is, parent does something wrong, or if there's something egregious, and they don't take responsibility they don't take responsibility for the shit that they did to that child, and that's flat out denial because that parent thinks that what they did was the right thing at the time, but it actually was egregious. Happen like you said, since it happens in corporate too, happens in the corporate arena too, because you have mid-level managers, or you have high-level managers that don't want to take responsibility for the shit that they do, or the egregious shit that they do, and believe that they're above reproach, or above criticism or chastisement, and they think that it's cool. And yeah, Devon say it is a do as I say and not as I do. And to be honest with you, brother, it should never be that. It should not be that way. It shouldn't be that way in a corporate setting, nor should it be that way in a marriage setting, or a parent-child setting, or any type of setting where we are personal, where we have personal interaction with each other. It should never be that way, because if the moment it becomes do as I say and not as I do, now we got now people become robotic. they are well, I put it like this: they either become robotic or they become resentful. And the resentful comes before comes way before robotic. When you take away responsibility, you take away accountability. It's almost like you're giving somebody the green. I won't even say almost. You're giving somebody the green light to act. You give somebody the green light to act the ass towards you with no repercussions. Somebody does something wrong, it's okay. No. Somebody wrongs you and you say it's okay. You're giving somebody the green light to treat you any kind of way with no type of repercussions, not physical repercussions, or not physical repercussions, but pulling that person to the rug and say, "Look, bro, look, sis, what you did was hella wrong, and you fucked up, and I need you to be accountable to that. I need you to be accountable to that." Like I said, when it becomes a do as I say and not as I do, people it becomes a resentful situation. And like I said, resentfulness comes before robotic. And that's for me, like I mentioned before, the balancing act is a delicate one. But it can be done. It's just you just have to kind of remember what in life. You have to remember what's yours and what's not yours. Your responsibilities are easily identifiable. Sometimes other people put responsibilities on us put things on us that are not as readily identifiable, and yet we take it on anyway. And then when that person abandons it, when that person abandons it, it becomes our burden. It becomes our burden. It becomes an inadvertent burden that we took on. The last thing that I want to mention to you guys tonight is something that I feel is very, very important. And all the things I'm saying up to now leads up to this. And I've been mentioning it and mentioning it and mentioning it subtly, but now I'm just going to put it out there completely. Balance is something that balance is something that us maintaining balance is something that remains in constant flux. It remains in flux basically based on the thing what I mentioned earlier. You add and you take away. You add on to one part, you add on to another part. Balance is something that is what is not is balance is something that does not remain the same. It constantly shifts and changes as our lives change. Let me repeat that. Balance is something that does not remain the same. It constantly shifts and changes as our lives change. As our lives change, our priorities may diminish, or as our lives change, our priorities may either diminish or increase. As our lives change, our responsibilities may diminish or increase. As our lives change, the things we see, our experiences may tip the scales in one favor or another. It's constantly shifting and changing, and it changes as our lives change. As we get older, as we get older, there's a lot more things that we have to deal with as we get older. You know, physically and emotionally and mentally, and also as our life situations change. When we get married, now there's another thing to add onto the scale. You add a spouse to the scale. When you have children, you add a spouse. You add children to the scale. those are more things that are added. Those are add that are added to the scale, and now you have to kind of figure out where. I won't say figure out. Now you have to figure out, you know, where these individuals fit as far as time, energy, and whereas time, energy, and physical presence. I think when it comes to spouses and children, though, to me, those are always going to be a priority. Those are always going to be a priority in life, because your spouse is that person, that guy. Your spouse is the individual that God gave you, that God blessed you with, and that God put in your life. And that person, but that person will require, that person does have a more of a requirement on your time, your physical presence, your time, and your energy. In addition to your job, in addition to your job requiring requiring you to be present for them for 8 hours of a day. And then you also think about this, that for 8 hours, for another 8 hours a day, we're sleeping or we're resting. So, that's 16 hours out of a 24-hour day. What are you going to dedicate for the what are you dedicating the other remaining 8 hours to? Now you have to kind of juggle those 8 hours, because again, like I said, 16 hours of our day, of a 24-hour day, has already been allocated to a job and rest and sleeping. So now you got the remaining 8 hours to deal with, as to, like, how is this going to happen? How am I going to divvy up this time? Who am I going to give the most time to? Who am I going to who who requires my attention at this given moment in time? So now that's a balancing act, to try to figure out what you're trying to who gets your time after the employer's taking 8 hours from you, and then you sleep for another 8 hours. How much time do I give my spouse? How much time do I give my children? How much time do I dedicate towards my business? How much time do I dedicate to seeing friends and family outside of my wife and children? That's that's difficult for a lot of us to manage. That is very difficult for us to manage. And like I said, like I mentioned earlier, I strongly believe that a spouse and your spouse and your children are going to take up the majority of that time, because again, they're the one. First of all, your spouse is the one that decided to live this life with you and share this life with you. Now you add kids in the mix. They're just an extension of you or your spouse. And these children are also sharing your life with you, as your kids are sharing their life with you. You know what I'm saying? So it's something that is always going to be in constant flux. And it does, and like I said, it changes as our situations change, as our life situations change, because because life goes just like that. It balance changes just like that. When you get married, or when life changes, our sense of balance changes, our sense of equilibrium changes. And also traumatic events can affect that. Traumatic events can literally throw us off balance, can throw us way off our equilibrium. Perfect example. I'll give you a perfect example. Losing my child to police violence. Not also that, but losing my uncle on my mom's side, losing my paternal grandmother, and then also helping my girlfriend Monica go, navigate this new world that has a this I'm gonna say this new world, but this new emotion and this new emotion for her, this new experience for her. A lot of those things have literally thrown me out of equilibrium. And it's easy to say because it's easy. I say that because yeah, bro, for real. Yeah, sure. Oh yeah, I agree with you, Devontae. After work, someone gonna lose. Someone's gonna lose out. Someone will lose out because someone will lose out because then again, you have to find out what you have to also put into that thing. And this is something I forgot to even mention. In those 8 hours between work and sleep, and then those 16 hours that are allocated for work and sleep, and then the 8 hours you have left for your family, what part of that do you what part of those 8 hours are you gonna are do you even have for you? We balance the one thing that I know, and this is something that I another thing that I was gonna say, but I'm gonna add this to this particular thing. Balance requires us to be balance requires us to constantly recharge ourselves mentally, recharge ourselves spiritually, recharge ourselves emotionally. If we're not properly recharged, then it it throws us directly out of equilibrium. It throws us directly out of balance. If we're not recharged in the way that we know that we need to be, that we know that we personally need to be, that we know that we physically need to be, that we know that we mentally need to be, that we know that we emotionally need to be, and we know that we spiritually need to be. It throws us completely out of whack. And the one thing I'm going to say is this, and everybody, a lot of other people can agree with me with this word or not. I mean, but to me, I believe it's true. And I preface it with this: what balance looks like to you may look different from me. It looks completely different from me because it all depends on what it is we're balancing, what it is we're trying to balance, what it is we're trying to bring into equilibrium, what it is we're trying to kind of at least get to a point of being evened out. You know what I mean? Balance, balance require balance is not always about getting things equal. Oh, yes, yes, sir. Very good thing that you mentioned there, Mr. Crouch. Very good thing that you mentioned is it is important to work together as a family to maximize the time that is needed for everyone to refuel. We have to because if we're not properly refueled and Mr. Crouch brought about a great point. If we are not properly refueled, everything else, and I'm gonna say this in a way that I know that it's probably gonna be understandable for a lot of people. And yes, I'm gonna use a harsh word. If we are not refueled, if we are not refueled personally, if we're not refueled mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, psychologically, if the people that we love and we care about are not refueled physically, spiritually, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, everything goes to shit. Everything goes to hell in a handbasket because everyone none of these the people that we're not properly refueled. Number two, the people that we care about are not properly refueled, and everything goes to hell in a handbasket. This is where arguments, this is where arguments, disagreements, and conflicts of interest happen. This is where the husband and wife. This is where husband and wife are, begin to get at these begin to get arguments. This is where children act out and all this other stuff. There are other things and there's other thing factors that go into that, but the one main factor that I want to put out here, and Mr. Crouch really brought this home, really made this relevant. And I would most definitely want to give, I'm most definitely going to give him props for that. If we and the people we care about are not properly refueled, everything else everything else that we are aligned with, everything else that we are associated with suffers. It suffers, and it suffers hard. Our spouses suffer, our children suffer. If we have a business, our business suffers. If we have a job, our job perform it can be affected by negative job performance. Our social life with our friends and our family is subject to be affected as well. So if we don't refuel ourselves, and what I mean by refuel ourselves, and Mr. Crouch most definitely, most definitely, you probably will most definitely agree with me. If we don't refuel ourselves mentally by taking mental breaks from stuff, physically by taking physical breaks from things, especially if we're doing things that's physically arduous. If we don't take emotional breaks, what do I mean by an emotional break? Not reliving the same trauma that you went through as a child. If we don't take psychological, if we don't take breaks for ourselves, proper breaks for ourselves, meaning that we have to just meaning that we have to move away from certain things, move away from certain aspects of the things that we're doing, and just take a break. For me, a mental break for me means moving away from this laptop, giving myself time to process some of the things that I write, process some of the things that I speak in front of this microphone. But giving my mind time to process things. Emotional breaks mean giving our emotions time to process some of the things that we've endured and we've experienced. Physical breaks mean physically removing yourself from something that is physically taxing. Spiritual breaks meaning a spiritual break means that you move away from everything, and that you find a quiet place and you pray, or you study your word. Those breaks are so very important for us to maintain, not only to maintain our personal balance. And this is the other thing that I want to add to this. And this will probably be for a later show. This is not only does taking breaks add to our taking those breaks add to our personal balance, but also adds to the collective balance. What do I mean by collective balance, Fred? I mean the collective balance in the family unit. Because I'm telling you, one person gets out of balance, it's a domino effect. One person that's out of balance affects the whole damn family. And personal balance is needed for personal balance is personal balance, proper personal balance is needed for collective balance. And I'm gonna say this, and like I said, this is probably gonna be a show for a later date. But what I do want to preface is the balance between husband and wife, the balance between father and daughter, mother and daughter, the balance between ourselves and our job, the balance between ourselves and our our businesses, the balance between ourselves and our outlooks and our opinions and the things that we and our outlooks on life. Personal balance helps collective balance. If you're in a place where you're properly where I'm gonna even because properly balanced is kind of like I won't say a bad thing, this word to say, but I'll say balance. Because, like I said, I will say proper balance because what proper balance looks like to you may be different to me. So if we're in proper balance with ourselves, we can most definitely we bring collective balance to the people that we care about. Yeah, for sure. That helps, brother. That really does help, bro. It does. It does, Mr. Crouch. It really does help because you know what it does, that it reels everybody back in. It pulls them away from whatever was going on in their day, and it immediately puts them in that family balance. Because if one person in your family is not balanced, then the whole family really ain't balanced. Really, honestly speaking, if we're going to be honest about it, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true, sis. If we don't have personal balance, then it does put unrealistic expectations on other people, and that also puts people in conflict. That puts people in conflict in conflicts that they don't need to be in, or they should not be in, or should have never even existed to begin with. And I'm saying I know I've read all those five things that I mentioned. Um, the scales of our personal what our personal balance is may not always be equal. Hey, Miss Arthur, how are you? You came late. The scales of when it pertains to our personal balance may not always be equal, but they're equal to the point to where things don't teeter over. Where it's not where one thing is more more one thing's more heavier than the other. That makes the whole scale just look awkward and lopsided. Yep. And learning to say no is one of those things that helps put us in balance. Saying no, saying the word the word no is not a bad word. It's a bad word it's a bad word to some people. It ain't a bad word for me because because it's easier to say because it's easier to say no than it is to say yes. It is, but it's okay to say no. It's also easier to say no than it is to say yes. Simple fact of the matter is that I don't mind saying no. No, no, no. And I don't say no to be mean or hurtful or disrespectful or nothing like that. Sometimes there are things that when I say no to, especially when it came to my stepchildren, um, at the time, when I said no, some saying no sometimes means that I see something that I see that I see something that may happen, and I don't want you to be a part of that. You know what I mean? I don't want you to be a part of that. Yep. Ooh, Shawan. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Whole other discussion. Perception versus reality. And everybody's everybody's definition of what of everybody perceives things differently. Yep. Oh, yes, indeed. Saying no is a way that which I think we should, Shawan, that's a great point. And I think we should all learn that. Learn that. Because saying no doesn't is a way, it is a way that creates harmony and balance. within us because you can't say yes to everything all the time. Saying when you say yes to everything, that means you overload and you overextend yourself. Balance is not about overloading or overextending yourself. It's just putting yourself to the point that where everything is as equal as it's going to be. The moment we overload and we overextend ourselves, that is when we cause the most damage to ourselves. And yes, sis, we gotta have a conversation about boundaries because are boundaries are hella important. We gotta talk about what they are. We also need to talk about what boundaries mean to what boundaries are meaning to people, and what are the consequences of violating or going over a boundary. Yep. Yes, sir. Too many yeses kills too many yeses. Get people to manipulate the family infrastructure, and then what the moment that infrastructure is manipulated. Sometimes it gets to the point it's manipulated to the point of no return. That means that family structure is destroyed. Well, not destroyed, but it's damaged. And once it's to the point to where it's damaged, that is where dysfunction comes in. And who in the hell wants to live in dysfunction? Balance does not exist in dysfunction. It just doesn't. Yep, people are pleasing the devil, man. People are this pleasing the devil. That's something that everybody looks at. Yep, dysfunction in blended families, it does make boundaries much more challenging because it introduces dysfunction. It really does introduce dysfunction. And like I said, the moment that dysfunction is entered into a situation or into any type of situation, enter into a situation, you have no control. Because once dysfunction is introduced, it's an uphill battle automatically. It's an uphill battle automatically. And then you get to the point, and then you get to the point, and then you will get no, I won't even say get to. It's already at the point of no return. Now you got to figure out. Now you gonna be now you pedaling backwards. Now you still up. Now you up a creek and you try to figure out. Now you got to pay. You got two pedals, and you try to pedal up creek against the flow of the water. No sir, no ma'am. We don't we no sir, no ma'am. Balance does not want balance. Being in balance, you automatically know not to pet not to put yourself against the flow of anything. You you roll you excuse me. You go with the flow. Yeah. Oh, look here. Y'all are we are going to sis, we gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. We're also gonna talk about boundaries too. But as I'm closing, the one thing that I really want to say about balance, honestly speaking, and this is something that I thought about, and I feel that is relevant to the conversation that I'm saying, and I'm probably going to ruffle some feathers. See, look at there, everybody getting together already, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. I really do love it. So I'm gonna say something that's probably going to be very controversial. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Look there. Thank you, Shawana. It's that it's pretty. That's pretty much a piece of what I of the thought process, the thought that I had, but it never got out. But you brought it home excellently with this. Even with boundaries, it ties into what I discussed earlier with the light versus dark. You must have or experience both to understand how they both bring balance to your life. We got to be able to understand what both of those are, what they mean to us. You can't sit there and accept the light part of you and not accept the dark part of you. What's wrong with you? They're both aspects of you. That's the duality of it. That's we like I said, we live in a duality. There's where we live in a duality. Look, God and the devil is God and the devil is a duality. Good versus evil, light versus dark. There our lives have a duality to them. Think about when think about it in this aspect. When you read the Bible, you look for those of us Christians, for those of us who are Christians, when you read the Bible, you look at it from the simple aspect of God is the good guy, the devil is the bad guy. That is duality. I don't care how you cut it. I don't care how much somebody wants to debate about it. It's duality. It is duality. One can't exist without the other. You can't have good without bad. You can't have light without dark. You can't have heaven without hell, and vice versa. Shout out to Pastor Troy. So yeah. But there's one thing that I want to say that I do want to say as I'm closing out. And like I said, what I'm about to say is probably going to ruffle some feathers, especially with those people those guys, those gentlemen in the black manosphere. I mean, I'm not saying this I'm not saying this. What I'm about to say is not to take a shot at them. I'm not taking a shot at them. But what I'm about to say is very much factual. At least to me, it is. People can agree or disagree. It does. It to me. To me, it really doesn't matter because it's it's an opinion, but it's based on what I see, based on what I've seen and what I observe, or what I have observed between. And I'm gonna say this because number one, and I'm saying this is towards black men and black women. We as black men and black women, especially when we're in the relationship thing. So first things first. I'm gonna put this out here right now, and let me be very blunt and very clear. People that say that there's a gender war, it's not. There are people that purport this to have the want to get you to pick a side. And to be honest with you, and this is just an opinion of mine. I don't believe that there's a gender war. What I do believe is this: the divide between us as black men and black women. As for what I mean, the divide, I mean the the attempt at understanding each other. The attempt at understanding each other, how each other operates, what how each other operates, how each other thinks, how they feel, what what is feminine and understanding how a woman operates in her femininity, like LSG, the show that LSG had a while not too long ago, which she's most definitely gonna do again. And how a mother, how a black man operates in his masculinity, which is a show I'm going to do. very, very soon. And um I'm going to invite Mr. Crouch, and I'm going to invite Miss Jones on the on that show so we can have a conversation about it. The divide between us as black men and black women is bigger than the Grand Canyon and deeper than the Mariana Trench. I'm gonna let that rest for a second, because I want everybody that's watching and that's viewing to think on that. That divide is God. God that's big. When you think about the Grand Canyon, that's really, really big. When you think about the Mariana Trench, damn, that's deep. That's really, really deep. That is how big the divide between us as black men and black women is. Michael, the thing that I'm going to say, and again, it's probably gonna be controversial, and I'm probably gonna catch all kind of hell for it, but that's cool. I'm prepared for it. It is what it is. As a black man and as a black woman, how in the hell can you find balance and can you even expect or want balance in a person when you don't have balance in yourself? How? We just talked about balance not too long ago. Now we just talked about balance. How do you expect to be? How do you expect to find someone that is balanced, or at least have a semblance, or at least working on balancing themselves, and you ain't balanced at all? Tell me where they do that at. Tell me how that even works. We will we will never close that gap. We will never close that divide until we learn how to learn how to get the hell along with each other. Learn how to respect someone's opinions and differences. Learn to understand where the other person is coming from, and learn how to not be so damn judgmental. It's it's amazing. It's amazing that I see all this stuff on YouTube and stuff like that. Yeah, man, for sure. I agree. I so agree. I so agree. I so agree. Matter of fact, on both of y'all, I doubly agree. Two halves don't make a whole. And so it's not. Listen, people, and I know I'm going off on a tangent right now, but I do believe that is relevant to our conversation. Two halves don't make a whole. It ain't 100. It ain't 50-50. It's 100-100. I'm giving you 100% of me. You're giving me 100% of you. If you're giving me half of who you are, I don't want that. I want all of you or nothing. I want all or nothing. I want all of you or nothing at all. I'm not because I'm damn sure not gonna give you 75% of me, or nor am I gonna even give you 25% of me. I'm gonna give you 100% of who I am. I'm not for to pull down my power level just because you ain't completely powered up. I'm gonna be powered up walking into this. Now you can either match my power or you can match my power or not. Straight up. And again, I jumped off the topic, but but I feel that it's so relevant to what I'm talking about. You can't how you go walk into a situation and you ain't and you ain't and you ain't properly balanced, or whatever your definition of properly balanced is, or whatever properly balanced looks like to you. that's that's funny. That's funny shit. What? I can't help but laugh about that. But it's true though. You get all the light and dark meat over here. Look, that is true, sis. Many of us do not operate in self awareness, and you're not self aware, but then you will attach yourself to somebody, and you ain't self aware, or better yet, you ain't healed, or you ain't properly balanced in your life. And I'm not saying that properly balanced means you got everything up under control and everything, and everything under, you know, everything under control and stuff like that. That's not what it means. What I mean by properly balanced means that what I mean by properly balanced, your scale don't look like this. Your scale don't look like this. It looks more like this. It doesn't have to be this, but it should look like that. You know what I'm saying? You're at least to a point to, or at least you're working towards a point to where you want to get it to where the scales don't teeter totter, or don't teeter totter over. It doesn't have to be even, but as long as it's at a point to where everything doesn't that nothing tips over, then it's cool. But if you not, but as a man or a woman, if you ain't if you ain't balanced, if you're not properly balanced, then how the hell are you gonna bring balance to another person? And I look at it from this aspect as I'm closing. And now I sound like a preacher. I said this earlier. When we are balanced, we help bring balance to other people. We help bring balance to the people that we love and that we care about. I would never want to walk into a relation. I would never want to ideally, I would never want to walk into a relationship and I wasn't balanced. Or I wasn't at least to the point to where I was about to attain that. Yep. We are what we attract. You if you're messy, then guess what? You're gonna attract messy. You're gonna attract mess. If you testy, you're gonna attract the same testy person. If you full of strife and all this other stuff, then guess what you're gonna attract? The same thing that you gonna get. If you ain't healed first, if you ain't healed first, you don't you will never be able to bring any type of positive value to a person. And being balanced is being a properly balanced person. Again, properly balanced is based up on your own personal definition, not mine. It's what you believe properly balanced is. But as I stated before, there's a lot of things that I stated are part of that. It goes into that. So if you ain't properly balanced, how are you ever gonna be like bring anything of value to anybody else, or even help, or even bring balance to another person, or better yet, bring balance to a family. If you're bring balance to a family, if you're a husband or a wife. Matter of fact, if you are a husband, and Mr. Croucher probably agree with me on this one, and I think a lot of these ladies here will probably agree with this. If you're a husband, it's your job to bring balance to your home. It is your job to bring. It is not. It's your responsibility to bring balance to your home, because as the leader of your home, that is what you're, as the leader of your home, you're supposed to lead, and you live. Leaders lead by example. If your spouse and your kids see that you're a balanced person, and a person that is evenly killed and things of that nature, guess what? Your spouse will see that, your children will see that. It makes things all the more easier to deal with, it easier to endure. It doesn't it makes certain aspects in life not so difficult, but it also makes going through harder challenges easier, because when the spouse when your wife when your wife sees that you're balanced, and your children see that you're balanced, they know that you're not going to be rattled. You're not going to be affected. You're not going to be rattled by anything. You're just you. They know that you're going to just you. They know that you're going to power on through, and they don't have to worry about if you got them, because you do, and you don't have to worry about if your wife or your kids have you, because you know that they got you. Just a thought, y'all. Just a thought. Just a thought. As we are closing out, I want to thank everybody that came on tonight and took a listen, or took a watch into this particular episode of the check in, man. Um, LHG, thank you so again, sis. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for for coming on. You didn't come on live, but you came up and you supported me, and everybody else that came up. Mr. Devontae Abston, thank you so much for coming on, sir. I appreciate you. Um, I hope that you were able to get something out of this, out of this particular conversation, out of this particular monologue, or I wouldn't even call it a monologue. It was a conversation, because we all contributed something to this conversation. To Miss Shawana Jones and Mr. David Crouch, man, from Shaking Up the Algorithm podcast, man. Look, I love you. I thank you so very much for coming up and blessing me, and just coming on and just adding to the conversation, man. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Thank y'all so much, man. Look here, and I'm gonna throw the shameless plug out here right now for them. Um, if you guys want to check them out, man, they are on YouTube at Shaking Up the Algorithm. Go go check them out. They are on YouTube, man. It's called Shaking, and it's with IN instead of G. Shaking Up the Algorithm. Go check them out, man. I personally checked them out. They have great content. They have some great content, man. If you guys look, I'm asking you, do me a solid. Go follow them on YouTube, and then check out their content. If you like their content, do me a favor, subscribe to their content. Also hit that bell notification to to hit that bell notification to be notified of every time when they come on live and things of that nature. I really want to thank them for being here tonight, man, because um we've had conversations, and I feel that this is going to be the start of a great partnership. I'm looking forward to being a guest on their platform. Um, let's I think that when we collaborate, I think when collaboration happens, great things happen. When you collaborate with people, with good people now. not just okay people. Okay people, you can collaborate with okay people, but when you collaborate with good people, great things happen. And I'm most definitely looking forward to this collaboration. Like I said, we've talked. Me and Miss Jones have talked, and yeah, we there's some stuff that we there's some subjects and content that we both want that we both want to kind of just put out there, uh, not only as a collaborative effort but also as a separate effort as well. So keep your eyes out for them, man, and look for them to come, look for them to come on this platform, because I most definitely want to have the masculinity conversation with them, because yeah, they had the way what they brought today was what they brought tonight was most definitely needed, and what everybody brought tonight was most definitely needed and added on to the conversation. So I thank you guys so very much for that. um LSG, you already know what it is. Simone Austin, y'all already know what it is. Y'all, I appreciate you guys for coming on and supporting every time I come step in front of this microphone and talk about and have this check-in show. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, it's never easy for me to step in front of this microphone and talk about and put myself on, excuse me, put myself completely out there like that, to expose myself through my experiences. But for me, this has been ever since the first I started the first episode. This has been a journey of self discovery, but it's also been a journey of healing for me. And as I continue to put these shows out, it is my hope and my prayer that more men, especially us brothers, tap into this, because because honestly speaking, y'all, we hurt we hurting we're hurting, and there's no real outlet for us to express ourselves. And I want to make this particular this particular type of show an outlet to where men can come in, and where brothers can come in, and we can just we can bear it all. We can bear it all. We can let it all out, and we can do that, and do that in a judgment free zone. This is a judgment free zone over here. This is a judgment free zone over here. And I want and I ain't gonna judge. And none of the brothers that I bring on ain't gonna judge. None of the women that I bring, none of the sisters that I bring on gonna judge either. We we're gonna build. We're gonna build together. We're gonna build together. That is that's what I want to do with this particular type of this particular podcast type. Look, man cave combos. I love it. I love it. I love it. Man cave combos. See, already great minds already thinking alike. But yo, man, I gotta get out of here, man. I want to thank you guys so very much for tuning in tonight, man. Continue to follow us on our various social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're also on Twitter. We're also on YouTube. We're also on LinkedIn. Again, go follow us on our YouTube channel, man. We're on the road to 100 subscribers, man. So it would do me. I would be honored if you guys could at least. I would be honored if you guys take a look at our content. If the content is something that you guys can align with or resonates with you, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification to be notified when this podcast platform goes live. We got some great hosts with some great content. LSG with her critical conversations, and her girl chat Tuesdays. Wow. If you guys missed it, if you guys missed it, if you guys missed it, she had a convo about what is femininity. Woo. Y'all, if you missed it, it's on YouTube for replay. So go check it out. Uh, LSG, and then also Quit Jones and and Coco 50 with My Life Has Destiny podcast. Ooh, Lord, they be coming with some fire, y'all. They be coming with some fire. Good God. They be down. They be burning down. And then me, I come in with my check-in shows, and then also, my the office alley, as well as any other various things that I want to bring around, bring out here. We got great content, y'all, man. Just so check us out, man. Check us out. Oh, just want to let you guys know. Tomorrow, tune in for My Life Has Destiny podcast with Quint Jones and Coco 50. Have no idea what they're bringing tomorrow, but I got a funny feeling I got a great feeling it's gonna be good. Also, Friday, a special episode of Critical Conversations with my sister LHG. She has an episode. She's got an episode that is going to be, oh boy, gonna be impactful as well as educational. Title is How to Love a Sensitive Man. Y'all want to know how to do that? Well, tune in tomorrow. Yeah, tune in Friday, and you guys will learn how to love a sensitive man. I know I'm gonna tune into that one because that's gonna be great. But anyway, y'all, I gotta get out of here, man. You guys have been wonderful, man. I appreciate you guys so very much, man. You guys are, as always, you guys are wonderful. I love you guys to life, and there's nothing you can do about that, man. The three things I always say when I close out these shows: first of all, love on each other. Second of all, be good to each other. Last but not least, we all know it's a crazy ass world out here. So please do me a favor. Take care of each other, man. Oh, last but not least, I wanted to say this, but I forgot to say it at the beginning. The song you heard is called Real Talk. That the person that you heard spit those lyrics was me. Yeah, me. Yeah, it was me. Me. Um, most definitely want to give credit where credit is due for the person who created the track. Most definitely want to give a big shout out to Yard Hunter Jr. Man, he has some great music and some great content. If you guys are interested and want to know a little bit more about him or listen to his music, go to his YouTube channel at Yard Hunter Jr. or check him out on Instagram at Yard Hunter Jr. as well. Um, a great guy with some great music and some great content. Um, yeah, go check him out. So, oh yeah, you here for that? You here for that, Mr. Shawan? I will most definitely get you the YouTube link for that, so you can tap into that. Most definitely, I got you on that end. But yo, I'm out of here, y'all, man. Y'all have a great night, man. Y'all be good. Y'all take care of each other. Y'all be safe out here, and you guys sleep well, and you guys rest well. And look here, I love you guys with the love of Christ, and there's nothing you can do about that. Love you guys. Peace.